we go. All right. Listen, happy Tuesday. That's right, I said Tuesday. Happy Tuesday for the men of Confidence Factor. Welcome to another Confidence Factor Talks. I am excited to be here tonight. And if you're coming on, we do want to hear from you. This is going to be a phenomenal show. This is going to be a life-changing show. The information that we're going to share tonight and what we're going to talk about, the deep dive discussion we're going to have today is literally going to transform your life. There's going to be things that are going to come up for you. There's going to be things and insights that you're going to have. There's going to be new ideas. There's going to be new releasing. You're going to unleash yourself tonight because tonight's discussion, we're going a little bit deeper. We're going into places that's going to help you to really unlock some of the things that's been stopping you from really expressing yourself. Some of the things that's been stopping you from really showing up in a big way. So I'm truly excited. So listen, before we get started, of course, I want to introduce, my co-host, Mr. Bobby B. Let's go ahead and bring Bobby B on right now because we're going to get this chain started. What's going on, Bobby B?
What's happening, baby? Today is a great day. Best day of my life. I am doing impossible things. You hear me?
Love it. I am possible doing impossible things. So welcome, man. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on the Confidence Factor Talks. Another Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We're here delivering massive value, having heart-level conversations that lead to transformation. And tonight, we are continuing that trend. And like I said, from the top of the hour, we have an amazing conversation tonight. Tonight, we're talking about life lessons, right, from our fathers. That's right, life lessons from our fathers. So here's the question we want to pose at the top of the hour. This is a big one. So I want you guys to really listen in. This is a big one. Lock in right now. This is going to be a big one. I want you guys to really engage. Because listen, here's what I know really quick. Going through this process and really asking myself this question unlocks so many things in me that allow me to just explode and take myself to the level, to explode and take my business to the next level. And I know it's going to have that same level of transformation impact on you. So tonight is about life lessons from our fathers, right? Here's the question. Do fathers impact the way men show up in their life and their business? I want you guys to answer that in the comment section, all right? I want you to answer that in the comment section. Do fathers impact the way men show up in their life and their business? This is what we're going to be answering tonight. So I want you guys to comment below. If you're coming on, watching the replay, put hashtag replay, comment below, and let us know what is your response to that particular question before we dive deep into this discussion. But Bobby, listen, man, I wanted to, just again, thank you so much for being here. You showing up, adding value as always, being a part of the Confidence Factor crew. What's been going on with you, man? How's your week been going?
Just excited, brother. This is an exciting week. I'm excited about this journey. Yeah. I'm really excited about this journey. I'm going to tell you, man, I made a major shift in my thinking because, they say it's not about necessarily getting to the destination, but who you become in the process, right? And the transformation that I'm having in my personal life, man, it's like night and day. They say sometimes like the people who know you now won't believe who you were back then, and the people who knew you back then won't believe the person who you are now. So in some regards, some things are the same, but in most off, I'm just excited about the journey. I'm excited about the transformation. I'm excited watching other people on their journey, their aha moments, and various things that are happening, especially with the guys in the group.
Yeah,
right. These guys are publishing books, increasing their income. They're just doing amazing things. They're sharing and helping other brothers get breakthroughs. All this is just happening right in front of my eyes, and it's hard to believe that we started this just over like a year and a half ago. So it's very fascinating. Very exciting to watch.
And the word that you just shared, you talk about transformation, and that's really why this community was put together. Talking about our mission, as you guys know, is to help 5 million men to pursue their passion and their purpose by developing their confidence factor, right? To develop that confidence. When you think of confidence, it's the inner game, right? It's the inner game. Confidence is not an outer thing, it's the inner game. So developing that confidence factor so that you can take action and move forward. And we do that in 3 main areas. Of course, we talk about confidence being an inner game. That's all about the self-mastery, right, Bobby? Right? Yes. Mastering one's emotion, mastering oneself, mastering of the limiting beliefs that hold us back. really knowing how to unlock those things so we can explode, take massive action, and just have certainty in our world. And of course, we want to provide the tools, the resources to help you to be able to grow and scale your business. We all know that, listen, we all want to create that money, right? We want to have money and resources to do things with, to travel, to be able to provide for our family, right? As men, that's what it's all about. Protect, provide, and serve, right? 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 So we want to have the opportunity to do that. So we want to make sure in the community we are providing the necessary information and tools to you guys to be able to do that. So like I said below in the comment section, let us know. Answer the question: do fathers impact the way men show up in life? There's no right or wrong answer. This is just an open dialogue that we're going to have, and we want you guys to participate. Share your thoughts and your ideas. Know that your thoughts, your ideas, you count and you matter in this particular discussion, right? You help to evolve this discussion. Any insights you have helps another fellow man to be able to move forward in his life. So know that you count, and we want to hear from you. All right.
And let us know where you are, right? You really do matter. We want to know, where are we reaching, who's receiving what we have. So we're sending out a heart level out to you guys. Give us a heart level back. Go ahead and type it in the chat. # heart level. That means we keep it heart level. We keep it 100 with each other because we're here to all grow.
Yes.
And like Darian said, our goal is to help entrepreneurial minded men to pursue their purpose by developing their confidence factor. And the only way we can have a heart level conversation that leads to transformation is we got to be open. We have to have some type of dialogue. So first things first, let us know who you are and what city you're in. Type that in the chat, and also send us out a quick heart level so we know who we're talking to. And if you guys have questions, feel free to go ahead and type your questions in the chat at any given time. If we can't answer it during the show, then later on we'll come back and we'll respond to it so you can see it on the replay.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about impact, man, I know last week we had an amazing show, right? Week, fantastic show. We had one great financial coach on, Mr. Lawrence Martin, who dropped some amazing nuggets. If you guys missed that last show, and you're looking to really level up in terms of your wealth building, then you certainly want to go back to last week's show. Lawrence came on and showed so many great nuggets on how to deal with personal credit, how to really use personal credit in a way to either build wealth or acquire assets and property and things like that, and just some of the things we need to know around credit. I didn't realize there was so many different facets to credit, man. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Yeah. So anything that stood out for you, Bobby, that you wanted to share from last week's conversation? Anything at all?
No, you know what? I just really enjoyed everything he was sharing. What stood out to me the most about the whole thing, I love the fact that the guys were asking questions and getting their questions answered. That's what my heart I just delight in that, right? Because there's nothing worse than having questions and being frustrated and stumped and not know how to navigate to, get through a situation, because you have these questions, and then somebody comes along and just begins to just answer question after question after question. So more so, I was in the back end taking notes. I don't have my my notes in here. I don't want to thumb through them.
Right.
But what was beautiful to me was watching the interaction and the questions get answered, and the fact that the brother was so knowledgeable, like he really knew his stuff, right? So that for me, my heart was just rejoicing. As I was taking notes, but I was taking mental note. I was like, we have to make sure we do this more often. Get these brothers, their questions answered. So that's what stood out to me the most.
Yeah, and that's all part of the tools, the resource. The second, goal here in Confidence Factor: the tools, the resources, and the knowledge to be able to help them to excel in their personal and their business life, right? And so, I love that. I love that, guys were showing up, guys were asking great questions, getting their question answered, and now they can take that information and implement that in their life and in their business and continue to build wealth. So we do appreciate Lawrence. Make sure you guys connect with him here in the group. He is one of our members in the group. And so reach out to him, connect with him, and learn more about what he's doing with his financial coaching. And last but not least, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about his book, right? Lawrence has written a book called, I think it's called What the FICO. I think it is What the FICO.
Yeah.
And Mr. Producer, do we have that link to share to the group? If not, no worries. If we don't have that link, no worries. The great thing is everybody knows what Amazon is, right? Everybody knows what Amazon is. So if you want to go ahead and get that book, What the FICO, which I highly recommend everybody goes on and grabs that book, because like I said, if you listen to Lawrence last week, you know that this is a guy that is full of wealth of knowledge and can provide some real true value to you that if used can net you. I mean, I'm not even gonna put a limit on it. It's unlimited. Like the build knowledge implemented can create so much transformation.
Transformation, yeah.
So I'm not gonna even limit that. But the book is called What the FICO. And so if you go to Amazon and just type in What the FICO, right, you'll be able to, and a FICO is a FICO. So What the FICO, you'll be able to see that in Amazon, okay? And go ahead and support the brother. This is what we do here in this community, is that we want to bring people who are experts in their field, people who are really adding value. There we go, Mr. Producer. Thank you so much for showing that. People adding real value and giving value and sharing to really empower the lives of other people. And that's what Lawrence is doing. So here on the screen, you can see the book in Amazon. It's called Who Gives a FICO? I'm saying what the FICO is. Who gives a FICO? So I'm sorry. Again, if we can just post that in the comment section. If any of you guys are watching, it is Who Gives a FICO, not What the FICO. I'm sorry about that, Lawrence. So it's Who Gives a FICO. I'm going to say that several more times. Who Gives a FICO is the name of the book. Go ahead and check it out. Phenomenal guy, and a great resource here inside of the group. So let's get started, man. This is absolutely exciting. Like I said, today's discussion is all about lessons from our fathers. And the question at the top of the hour was, do fathers really impact, your life and our business, right? Do they really impact our life? The lessons from our fathers, do they really impact our life and our business? And, I'm excited to share, and Bobby's excited to share some lessons and some stories about, our relationships with our dad. And we want you guys, again, in the comment section, if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this live, tell us about what this transformation has been with your life. So let's set some context, because I know that some of you may have some conversations around, well, you guys clearly had the father in your life. I didn't have my father in my life. That's okay. The reality is you learned some lessons, whether your father was present or he was not present, right? So this is not just for people who had their fathers in their life. This is for people who, period, you're an entrepreneur and you have a father, then you learned something from your father. And it affected the way how you show up in the business. And I want you to be thinking about that, right? If you haven't really thought about that before, I want you to really sit back and thought about what are some of the lessons that you learned, whether your father was present or not present. What is his not being present really taught you? And maybe that taught you to be more impactful, or maybe it taught you to never trust people or whatever, right? I want you to think of that. I want to go too deep right now, but I want you to be really seriously thinking about that and how it potentially could affect you in your life and business. All right, so without further ado, we're going to get started. And Bobby, like I said, I've done a bunch of talking. And I don't want to take too much time, but I know you have so much great stuff to share, worthy of people hearing. So I would like to, give you the stage to start off and share your first either lesson or story from the impact your father had on you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My father, awesome dude, man. Wayne Dyer says that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I cannot tell you how true that statement is. So here's an example. As a young man, I'm like any teenager, I was selfish, right? I wanted what I wanted, how I wanted it. And I just wanted to go. And so my father would do something like he would repeat the same stuff all the time. Like one time he helped me buy a Land Cruiser. I remember wanting a Land Cruiser in New York City. At the time I was growing up, the Land Cruiser was like the vehicle, right? And I wanted this vehicle so bad. And so what I used to do, you talk about visualizing and, meditating and focusing and, locking your mind on something. I used to drive this hoopty. I bought this hoopty from this Jamaican dude for like $100. Had no license, had no car, no good place, no insurance, no nothing, man. But the Jamaican dude was getting rid of the car. I bought it for like $100. I used to drive my hoopty behind Land Cruisers. So I just drive. I don't care where I was going. If I see a Land Cruiser, I would change directions, drive behind it for like miles and miles and miles, just staring at it and thinking about myself behind the wheel. And then, I'd stop and I'd, go back on, whichever way I was driving. And so I was practicing visualization back then. I didn't read any book. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew what I wanted, right? That desire was in me. So when I told my father about it, my father ended up helping me buy the Land Cruiser. And, long story short, I ended up losing the truck. But I didn't think much of it. It was just something I wanted. My father helped me get it, and I kept going. Later on, I remember my father, I would talk to him every now and then, and he would always say, "Hey, remember that Land Cruiser I bought you?" Like, why is this guy always bringing this up? Like, what's up, dude? Why you keep telling me the same thing over and over and over again, right? So it used to bug me out a little bit. But so that was one aspect. The thing with the Land Cruiser, him saying that over and over, "Hey, I helped you get that Land Cruiser." That was one aspect. The other aspect I observed is I had a conversation with him one time, and he told me about some guys he was in partnership with. He used to own real estate. He was big in network marketing and real estate. He owned several properties in New York City, probably one of the toughest markets to get property in, right? And he owned several brownstones in the Bronx, and he had a coin laundromat. And I remember him telling me one time in his story, he says, "Hey, he was in a business with some guys, and the deal didn't work out." And I remember looking in his face and seeing how distraught he was about it not working out. I could tell it was like still a pain associated with it. And he was like, "You got to watch the people you do business with and get it." It was like it was like one of those intense lessons. And I was like, right. I was listening to him, but I really didn't know what he was talking about. Right. And so later he ended up losing those properties and the coin laundromat because of the quote unquote partnership. So he went on and, he had some successes. He had some failures, but he kept going as an entrepreneur. To this day, he's 70 something years old. And he was telling me about a business opportunity. He said, "I sent you the email and everything." I said, "Okay, I'll take a look at it." He's like, "But don't take long because it's an opportunity. You don't want it to pass you by." And I'm like, this guy's like 70 something and he's still closing deals. Like, what's up with this dude, right? So to fast forward this conversation, I had a conversation with him like about a month ago. And we literally had the best conversation we've ever had since I've known the guy, right? And what was fascinating, he started talking to me. He sent me a video. Now watch this. I want you to pay attention to this because this is very peculiar. It's very unique, very specific. This guy sent me a picture of a property, and it was the most expensive house in America. I said to myself, man, I didn't know this guy was into real estate on that level, right? And to set the context a little bit, he's a Jehovah's Witness, right? So as a Jehovah's Witness, most people know Jehovah's Witnesses, the people who knock on your door, they're not too much into the worldly stuff. And, so I'm saying to myself, yo, what's up with this dude? Like, why would he send me the most expensive? He didn't send me a house. He could have sent me a house, some house. He sent me the house. He told me, he said, when they made this house, they had no budget. When they created the property, they told them there's no budget. So imagine what's in that house that was, the most expensive house with no budget. And I said, man, that's exciting. Second thing he sent me was some new tech cars. And these were like futuristic cars, some Tesla cars, and all these different space age cars. And I was just so fascinated. So we connected on these houses, which I'm in real estate. I love real estate, right? And I'm into cars. Rudy's into cars too. He loves cars. Shout out to Rudy. Heart level to you, baby. Rudy LaRose in the building. So he sent me these cars. And so I'm into cars, kind of like Rudy's into cars. We like all these expensive luxury gadgets and things like that, right? So you say, okay, B, wrap it all up. What are you telling me, bro? Here's what happened. Up until that point, I saw my father as a Jehovah's Witness. I saw him as a man that was highly religious with specific outcomes that he wanted in his life, certain disciplines, and he wouldn't move beyond. Because that's the way I viewed him, I never got anything from him. As a child, I got the Land Cruiser, but I wasn't really appreciative because I was a kid and it's just what I wanted. So as we connected on this most expensive house in America and on these luxury cars, I said to myself, this is why I am the way I am. I'm like, it's like a light bulb went off. So the lack of conversations over the years, right? The very surface, how you doing? I'm doing good. How's the family? Family's good. How's your wife? How's your wife? How's your kid? How's your kid? Everything's good. Everything. I'm not about to talk religion. That wasn't happening. And there was nothing in my eyes to really talk about. So when we talk, the conversations were always kind of, blah, blah, blah. And then you go on and then you wait for the next conversation, which could come months later. Well, after he sent me this house and these cars, we had a dynamite conversation, right? And we talked and talked about it. We talked like 2 days later. We talked like 3 days after that. And we even talked about it with his wife. And he was talking about how if he was in the most expensive house, he said they wouldn't be able to get him out the house. He's like, I'd hire the security. He said, but not those fake security, the little, rubber stamp security. He said, I have the sniper guys, like the undercover SWAT dudes, the guys that they send out on those recon missions. And I'm saying to myself, this is the Jehovah's Witness talking to me. He said, because if that was my house and they come up there, I tell them, I said, they have to get rid of them. Like, what you doing up here? Show your ID. Or they had to they had to pull the guns on him. And he said, he'd have his security team. And he says, I also have drones flying all around the house, watching people. He said he never leave the house. So his wife jumps on the phone and his wife is like, man, nobody want to live in that house. That's a museum. That's not a house, it's a museum. Who's going to live there? He said, no, people would have to get vetted to come see me up in the house. I had to have, she said, wait a minute. He said, you wouldn't get vetted to come see me? She said, listen to me. I'm going to come all the way up to visit you and get vetted just to see you? Man, please. Ain't nobody coming to see you. So they're arguing because he's in love with this house and wants the house. And she's like, think it's the most foolish house. So they're going back and forth. And I'm witnessing like the most comical moment ever. So I had a series of conversations with my father. His wife got involved. It was just so dynamic. And what happened in that process was my mind shifted. I began, like Wayne Dyer said, to see him differently. I didn't see him as a father who's a Jehovah's Witness. I saw him as the original creator of me, the guy who led the way, who implanted into my DNA a love and a passion for real estate, for houses, for cars, for technology and gadgets. My perspective of him began to change. In the process of doing that, I began to admire how many times I've watched him fall down and get back up and get back into business. As you always say, right? Winston Churchill says that success is going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. I'm like, this guy's 70. He's been in business for himself since I've been a child. I'm 45 years old. So he's been doing this at least 45 years. And when he talks about something, he's always passionate and excited, and he keeps going. Then it hit me. Repetition. The one thing that my father's good at is repetition. When he believes something and he believes it with his whole heart, he sticks to it and he does it over and over and over, like entrepreneurship. Doesn't matter which field or what business or what thing he's doing. He's going to get back up, like Winston Churchill says, because he understands that success is in the ability to keep going. And then it hit me. B, that's how you're able to go to prison and come home and land on your feet and keep going. B, that's how when your marriage is on the rocks and it's on the brinks and it looks like you're not going to make it, you're able to bounce back from that when most people won't. That's how when you lose your religion, lose your faith, lose the people in your life, your close friends and family, people who you consider family, and it doesn't work out, you're able to regroup, find new people and family in your life. B, that's how when you lose your health and you used to be an athlete and play lacrosse and play football and play basketball and play on a lacrosse team, and you go from an 8-pack to a 1-pack, how you can bring yourself back at age 44 looking as good as you did at 24. You have repetition in your blood. You have resilience in your blood. You have a father who paved the way through your DNA, and you are just coming into the realization. And the reason why you're understanding more about who you are, your power and your force, is because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Because I changed my perspective of my father is why I got a chance to see the benefits that he's afforded me by bringing me into this world that existed the entire time that I just never noticed. Same guy, same stories, same thing. My perspective changed. And so the benefits come along with it. Now I can see more of who I am. Now I know when I'm up against a battle, you can handle the battle. You got repetition, you have resiliency, you have the ability to fall down 7 times, get up 8, as Denzel says, right? All these things start firing on all cylinders in my mind because I change the way I look at things. So my question to you is, do you have in your relationship with your father, those of you watching, do you look at your relationship like I did and say, oh, that's just, my father, he's not this or he's not that, or it's no big deal? Is there a way that you can shift your perspective and then begin to see the benefits or the positive things that your father have sown into your life? Some of the things that I've been doing and getting victories off wasn't because I was so smooth, so smart, so cool, so strong. It's built into my fabric. It's in my DNA, but I don't really know. I'm just able to do it, but I don't know why and how I'm able to do it. Imagine the confidence, the force, the power that I can move forth with now, knowing more about my identity, who I am, where I came from, and what my father has given me. And it all came from just a simple shift in perspective, right? And that's what I like for you guys today to do. So look at your own life and see, is my story the same? Can I shift how I look at my father and see how it impacts you? On the other side of that, by my father telling me that story about the what happened with his partners, I've also did develop a mindset subconsciously not to do partnerships. I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of partnerships I put together flopped and failed. And the reason why it flopped and failed, because subconsciously, my father had sowed a little tiny seed that had grew into a big tree in my mind, which is be mindful, be wary of people, partnering up with people, because something could go wrong. So now that I know that exists, I know where it came from by becoming more aware and doing this self-mastery, self-development. I know that, hey, that's one thing that my father gave me that I can pay attention to, but not take it as gospel. And that made all the difference in the world. I hope that helps somebody out there. D, what you got?
Yeah, man, phenomenal share, man, phenomenal share. And before I just kind of recap on what you shared, I wanted to just reset the room here and welcome a couple of people. We have Emerson McLean here. What's going on, Emerson? Good to see you. We have Denard here as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Of course, we got the Rudy, Mr. LaRose in the building right here, heart level. And guys, we're discussing life lessons from our fathers, right? Again, whether your father has been present in your life or not present in your life, we're discussing how they have impacted your entrepreneurship journey. What are some of the lessons? What are some of the things that you walked away with that had an impact, whether it be positively or negatively? So we want to have this discussion because so oftentimes is the things that we're unconsciously aware of that has major impact in the way that we're showing up, which sometimes doesn't serve us. Or in the case of what Bobby just shared, he was able to learn the process of repetition, resilience from his father. So that certainly served him in business. But a lot of times, there are things that we make a decision on, right? The decisions that we made that because of relationships with our fathers or what we learned from our father that could certainly not serve us. So we want to certainly address that. And I think this is a very powerful conversation to be in and something that you should definitely look at and journal on and see if there's an impact that's certainly affecting you in business. So just wanted to reset the room here. Bobby, great share. A couple of things I wanted to highlight. You talked about your father giving you an identity. And well, let me leave that for a second because that's a good segue into my share. You talked about something that happened with him and his partner that then planted a seed for you that ultimately shaped the way and framed the way you look at partnerships. And so, what was the impact? What I got was the impact was you already went into these partnerships with a past view, which certainly then it affected how you would operate in these relationships, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that you fully trusted in these relationships? What do you think was the thing that then showed up which caused those relationships to break up?
Yeah. So, and that's a beautiful question. Excellent question. It impacted me in a sense because I always had this reservation that, look, at the end of the day, I don't need you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you. And so by feeling like you don't need someone, there's not a full sense of appreciation, right? And unfortunately, it took me years to unlearn that, to even figure that out, acknowledge that. But at least you know, right? Now that you know, you can do something about it. So that was the negative impact it had on me, because I went in again. It wasn't like you said, not I'm trusting you, but at the end of the day, we can snip this in a minute, right? So yeah.
It's like it's always like a undercurrent conversation that's going on. That ultimately, like you said, I think you said it just beautifully. You said that the way you show up is, hey, I don't fully appreciate you, and so I don't really need you. So the way I show up is I don't fully appreciate you in this partnership, and people can feel that, because that's an energy, that's a way of being that people can feel. Imagine if you showed up that way with your wife. Like if you had that frame of mind with your wife, right? With your spouse, I don't really need you. Well, there's a way in which you're going to be with your wife or your spouse that they can feel that impact, right, of how you're showing up. So this is what we're talking about here, fellas, is that oftentimes we're unconscious of the way in which we're showing up, because we have little awareness about our beliefs, about, as Bobby said, what has been planted, what seeds have been planted, or even what we have accepted. Right? Because sometimes it's the story that we're telling about a situation that happened that then now becomes a belief, then becomes an identity, because we repeat it over and over. So identity is such a big thing. And it really leads me into, my actual, story that I want to share you about something that happened with my father. So, Bobby talked about, some of the things that really impacted him positively. Of course, learning about resilience and seeing the example of his father going through adversity and keep moving forward. And so that built a sense of that confidence in him that he could overcome any obstacle, because he had an example of that. And then, of course, then he talked about the other aspect of the partnership, where he saw where his father taught him that partnerships are not to be trusted. And so, that impacted him in his business. So I want to share, my story about an identity that I created that really didn't serve me. And even up to the day, I just recently really uncovered, I recently uncovered how much impact this has on my life. This identity, or this story that I created, literally cost me millions and millions of dollars. I did the assessment, Bobby. It cost me millions and millions of dollars. Not even joking. It cost me millions and millions of dollars. And I'm saying that over and over because I want you guys to understand how much these things that we don't know relative to the relationships with our fathers can certainly impact us from a monetary standpoint, from a health standpoint. I mean, it has major costs. So I'm asking you guys not to just, gleam over this topic. This is an important topic. Again, like I said, whether you have your father in your life, whether your father's not there, assessing these things are critically important, because it's the things that we don't know that oftentimes drive our behavior, that ultimately drives our results in our life. So Emerson just shared, I want to bring it up. Actually, Denard said, my father worked one job his entire adult life and retired over 40 years. Beautiful stuff, man. Love that. Thanks for sharing that, Denard. Christopher Henry, what's going on, champion? Thanks for being here. Christopher Henry said, "What's up, champion?" I love that, because people always reflect back to you what you call him, right? So I call him champion. He calls me a champion. Love that. Emerson said a great point there. I was just talking to someone about that a few days ago. Accepting the trauma is the issue for most men. Beautiful comment. Accepting the trauma, and looking at the trauma, seeing the lessons from it, and then releasing yourself from that impact. Because looking at it is one thing, but if it's still present, it's going to still have an impact. So love that you share that. Appreciate your comment there, Emerson. Thank you so much. So let's get real heart level for a moment, right? A lot of you guys are going to hear things shared by me that you probably never heard before, and you may be shocked. And because the thing that I'm going to share will be something that many has said to me, even Bobby has said to me, like, I must be crazy to even have these kind of levels of thinking, right? So people even close to me in my life that are my brothers that lock arms with me in service to other men in this community has said back to me that this is crazy thinking. And I agree. I absolutely agree with that. So some years ago, many years ago, right? As you guys know, I grew up in Antigua, in the Caribbean, and my dad was an entrepreneur. He's a salesman. And so I watched him as a salesman, build his business and build his life going out and connecting with people, talking to businesses, and making sales. And then eventually he got to a point where he started his first company. And he started this company with a bunch of doctors, right? And so I saw my dad progressing through life. Now, me on the other hand, in high school, I wasn't the best student. I was probably a C, D student at best. And I really wasn't applying myself. In fact, I think here in the United States, ninth grade is probably like first form. I repeated ninth grade and I repeated 11th grade. Like that's how much disconnection I had from schooling. And I bought into this idea that I wasn't very smart enough. I wasn't good enough, right? So here was, having a father who was very successful, going from, I remember the times when I used to walk around barefooted, right? Right? We went from a relatively poor environment and situation. I saw my dad work himself up to, having his own company and move us into a middle-class lifestyle. So I know what it means not to have. I know what it means to go hungry. I know what it means to walk on the street, with no shoes on, right? I know what it means to then move up in life into a middle-class family and to be considered, know that you are considered well-to-do and rich. Even though for me, I never connected with what my father and my parents had, but I know the spectrums of life, right? So I've experienced it. And, for me though, growing up, I've always strived to be like my father, right? And unfortunately in the academic area, I wasn't very successful. And I remember one time my dad was driving, him and his friend was driving, and I was in the back seat, and my dad said something, which was, he said like, well, I wish Darren was, as smart as other kids, or something to that sort. That's what I thought I heard, right? Hear what I said? That's what I thought I heard. He was comparing me against other kids, and of course, I wasn't doing well. They were doing well, and he didn't seem to be happy about it. And so from that day, I made a decision. I made a decision that, Darren, you're not very smart, right? And not only that, I made a decision, Darren, you're not very lovable, and you're not good enough. And that decision literally affected everything, the rest of my life. It affected the rest of my life. No, I went on from Antigua and came into the United States and went to college and everything, and was successful in college, ran track, got a scholarship, all that stuff. And that's great. But what I didn't realize is this, Bobby, and I talked to you before about this. I didn't realize how much that decision about not being enough, not smart enough, would literally drive my behavior, my emotional behavior, and how I dealt with people and how I valued myself, where I place my self-worth, right? So because I never got that quote unquote love from my father, or because I never got that validation from my father, you can imagine that what I did for the rest of my life was to continuously seek validation from everybody else, right? So the reality is I never really saw myself as valuable. I never really saw myself as, very smart. So the way I would go through life is I would always compensate. So I would find, the big words to say so I could look smart. Why? Because I didn't feel like I was smart, right? I would try to, negotiate and do certain things and be certain places, right? To kind of look a certain way. It's like, you talk about the facade, right? You kind of create that facade, right? That's what I was doing. Now, I was doing this unbeknownst to myself. I didn't realize I was doing this, but that was the driver. Because why? I needed other people to validate me. I needed other people's positive opinion to really say that, Darren, you're doing a great job. But what I was really looking for is I was looking for that connection with my father. I was looking for the connection was validation from my father. So everybody else became my father. Everybody became the opportunity to get validation, whether it be women, whether it be, in business opportunities, whether it be posting something on social media. And I found myself always constantly be in a state of, this whole dance of, hey, if somebody says something nice, then I'm good, right? I'm valuable. If somebody says bad, then I'm not very valuable. So how did that impact me in business? Remember I told you it cost me so far, what I learned cost me like millions and millions of dollars. See, here's the thing. Anybody from the outside in would look at me and say, man, that dude has everything all together, right? And listen, I acknowledge the successes that I have. I've acknowledged the things that I've done successfully with my family. I've acknowledged the intentionality of things that I've done in my life. But there's a reality that there's an emotional space and then there's a physical space. There's a physical things that show up, the things that you've acquired in your life, and people can see that. Then there's an emotional space of the place that you live in. And so although everything outside could be really, really good physically, emotionally, there's a space that you could feel unfulfilled. Emotionally, you could live in a space where you feel as though you don't really matter. Emotionally, you could feel like, you know what, even though you have a lot of stuff around you physically, you could still feel like you're not enough. You could feel like, oh my gosh, everything is not enough. You are not enough. You will never, you're not worthy. Even though you have a beautiful wife and good kids and all this other stuff, you can still live in an emotional space where you feel like you're not enough. And that's the reality for a lot of people in America and a lot of people in the world. I know I'm not unique to this regard, or was up until recently, right? To this regard, right? And so you may be listening to this is crazy. This is the first time I'm hearing even say anything like this. And you would be right, because this is not something you just share with everybody, right? But I'm being vulnerable tonight and I'm being open because I know it's going to serve somebody. I realize the importance of me sharing what I'm sharing right now. And I wouldn't share this before because I was so concerned and attached to you needing to like me. I was so concerned and focused in you validating me. I wouldn't want you to know that I actually feel this way. And so for some of you, that's how you're living right now. And so some of you, this is how you're showing up in your business. And so when I talk about not losing $4 million, can you imagine, right? How much more money I would make in my business, how much more connections I would make, how much more impact I would have if I would just allow myself to express myself without needing somebody else to validate me, right? So because what happens is whenever there's a need for someone to validate, then you limit your expression. You play small. You don't really play full out in life, right? And so that limits your impact, because the more action you take, the more risk you take, the more results you can get. And so that's one of the limitations. So you may be hearing me like, man, this guy is flowing. He's sharing. He's dropping some nuggets. This is me in my true authentic self. This is me in my true power. This is the thing that I was hiding. I think it was, what's the quote, Bobby? It says that, a deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. The deepest fear that we are powerful beyond measure, right? I was hiding my power, because if I unleash my true power, then that means there's some people that's going to separate from me. That means there's some people that may not like me. And of course, the ego, what I call the inner jerk, doesn't like that. And so, for a long time, this is how I was operating. And I didn't realize I was operating like this. And I kept saying like, I'm trying to work through this, not enough. I'm trying to work through this, not enough. Continuously telling myself this lie for a long time, because the truth of it is I was trying to win the validation from my father, right? Even though me and my father had this discussion, and I talked to him about this, because I never really let go of this lie that I was telling myself, it remained present in my emotional space, which impacted the way I was showing up, which impacted the results in my business, because I was playing small. The analogy that I use real quick, what time we have? I want to make sure we're good on time. 7:42, what could we good? The analogy I use is like, I kind of heard this analogy, right? Imagine if you're playing poker and, for a long time, you've been constantly withdrawing from yourself without putting a lot of things in. So I've been withdrawing a lot from myself, right? You're not enough, you're not good enough, really pulling and not depositing a lot of positive in. So you really only have, you're playing poker, you may only have like 5 chips, right? That's what you're playing with. That's what you bring into the table. That's what you bring into the game of life. Only 5 chips, right? Then you got your opponent, he brings like 20 chips to the table, because he's been depositing a lot of positive stuff in himself. He's got 20 chips to the table. And you only have 5. Hold on. Okay, it looks like okay, am I back? Okay, it looks like I paused a little bit. Okay, so am I back, Bobby?
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
Okay, am I good?
You're good now.
Awesome. Sorry about that. So he brought 20 chips to the table. I only bought 5, right? So tell me this, answer this question. Who's going to play more risk? Who's going to take more risk in the game called poker? Who's going to take more risk in the game called poker? Of course, the man with the 20 chips is going to take more risk, because he knows he has more opportunity, right? He has more opportunity to lose and still be in the game. But for me, I only have 5 chips. So I'm going to play it safe. Like I got to be, tentative as to what I post, and, I got to be tentative about what I say, and I got to be tentative about what I do. And, so you live your life very rigid. You live your life very, very safe, playing it very, very small. And it has a major, major impact. And so that's one of the things that I just recently discovered. I really see let go, right? I've always known that this idea of not enough and validation was always there, but I was able to release it recently because I took myself through an exercise. And one of the things I would encourage you guys to do is the aspect of, getting yourself more chips is about praising yourself. It's about validating yourself, really loving yourself, right? not needing somebody else to validate you. So that's one of the things that, you know, a situation in my father that I then created a story that then impacted the way I show up in my business and my life that did not serve me. And I hope that, you know, that share really served you guys tremendously. It's a pretty big one. And the other one I'll share really quick. This is a quick one. And very much like you, Bobby, my dad, when he went into business with the doctors, unfortunately, well, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but one of the things he told me later on is that the doctors had offered him more shares in the company, right? They told him, hey, you know, it's your idea, you know, you take more shares. And my dad was like, no, everybody takes their 33.5% or whatever the case is. And so, you know, even though he did the lion's share of the work, and even though he was the one that brought the idea to the table, he ended up, only taking a small percentage. And then later on, the guys eventually kind of kicked him out of the company. And so that also, for me, developed an aspect of trust, just like you, Bobby, in terms of partnerships, any relationship. I'm always watching people to see, like, you know, what they're going to do and things like that. And it limits my expression in fully really connecting with people in a deeper way. Not that I don't have relationships. I just realize that because that is present, it does have an impact, right? So, you know, those two things I wanted to share. And I wanted to share that, you know, and so as I know that there's somebody out there that may be dealing with what I'm dealing with, or dealt with what I'm dealing with, right? And can relate. I see Emerson said, great point there. Okay, hold on. It says accepting the trauma. Okay, I got that. And Denard says, this is great, brother. Truth. Thank you. Thank you for your comment, David Denard. So yeah, so that those are the two things that I learned and how it impacted. And today, you know, being able to be in the space of that has been powerful. And I wanted to share this publicly because, you know, I want to honor Bobby in this because, you know, this is one of the reasons why we have this community. Because, you know, no matter how much people think you have it together and everything is going well, we all have our days. You know, life, there's a law of polarity. Some days are going to be good, some days are not going to be good, but it's all good, right? And so you have to have people around you that's going to continue to remind you of your greatness, right? I spend a lot of time calling people champion. It's my own self-affirmation to remind myself that I'm a champion. But sometimes you need somebody's outer voice to be bigger than your inner critic, to be bigger than your inner jerk, right? And so recently, Bobby and I had a conversation, and I shared with this whole thing with him about being not enough and not smart enough. And he literally just really got on me. He got on me hard about the realities of my contribution, the realities of my impact, the realities of who I am in this world, and prayed with me and really spoke into me. And I think I know it was that shift. It was that day that when Bobby spoke into me and shared, you know, his heart with me, that all of a sudden, you know, the next book that I was reading or the next thing that I was studying, just boom, just all of a sudden brought it all together. And I was able to release all this stuff that I was dealing with. And I was finally able to embrace my value. I was able to embrace who I was. I was able to embrace and really look and dig into my self-worth and know that I'm a contribution and that I matter to this world and that I need to be more visible to share my voice so that I can make an impact, right? So with that, I mean, I want to thank you guys for watching, for listening to my share. And if this resonated with you in any way, comment below, you know, again, what impact has your father and the life lessons that you have been on your business? I know Rudy is here. So of course we have a little more time. So I wonder if Rudy would like to jump in and share his heart as well. That's our other brother right there, Mr. Connector. Love the brother. And we're brother in arms in transformation. So Rudy, come on board, man. Want to hear from you, brother.
What's going on? What's going on, good peoples? Rudy LaRose, of course, in the building, as always. Man, thank you for that share, Darian. As I was listening to you share about your father and about the brotherhood that we've been able to formulate with these amazing entrepreneurs that are watching, that are listening, that are part of our community, I can only be thankful that we're making the impact that we're making on them as your father has made on you, over the last few years, and as well you, Bobby. Of course, I'm not a father, but I do understand the aspect of fatherhood based on men who showed up in my life, and became that father figure for me. And when I think about the lessons that I've learned, there's a lesson recently that comes to mind that actually I didn't realize it wasn't a thing in my life until I sat down with my coach one day, and you know, as we started having conversation, um, it was revealed to me that your boy had a Superman cape with some holes in it. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, "What do you mean? I got holes? I'm Superman. What do you mean?" And it was revealed to me that I got holes in my, you know, to be careful not to be Superman, to the point where you have holes in your cape. And when I started digging deeper into that, I begun to understand that having a father in your life, um, for just a brief moment, and then not having that person in your life as if nothing ever happened, I think the damage there can be so, you know, instrumental, because we don't realize that, oh yeah, that's my father. He's not, I mean, I'm not used to him anyways. I saw him for a couple years and then he disappeared, and I'm good. It's like, I'm good, you know, no hard feelings. All right, pop, see you later, have the best life. But I hadn't realized that because of that abandonment, um, I started showing up differently in people's life, to the point where trying to be a superhero to everyone and trying to show up for them, because I didn't want them to feel how I felt because my father didn't show up for me. And so as I began to conduct businesses, so I was putting myself in situations where, you know, it was easy for me to either say no, or it was easy for me to either say, you know what, I know you want XYZ, but I can only do so much. But I didn't want to disappoint, right? And so in my trying to not to disappoint clients, I did quite the opposite. I tried to show up in a way where I was trying to be Superman with holes in my cape, because I didn't want them to feel as disappointed that I felt, for my father not being there. So that's one of the things that was revealed to me a few years ago. And ever since then, you know, I actually, you know, I had to make adjustments in that. But also what I realized is, sometimes because he didn't show up in my life, it allowed me to then find the things that I needed as an entrepreneur, as a man, as a black male in America, you know, to navigate through life, from other people, from other men, from other, you know, older men that are seasoned, that are centered, that are well rounded in their, you know, in their establishment, whether it's business or personal, or their faith. But it's just allowed me to intentionally go out there and find the information, and find the connections, and find the relationships that's going to cultivate the great things that I've could have taken from my father. You know, just recently, I, you know, finding out all of his accomplishments and the things that he's done in his life made me realize that, hey, I have greatness in me. You know what I'm saying? I have the greatness in me, and perhaps one day I will be that person who you'll read about that's done so many great things. And that's not even the point, but the point is that realizing, despite of the disconnect, there's still an interconnection in me, from the DNA, from the, you know, from my ancestors, from my father, my great grandfather, and his, you know what I'm saying, like from that lineage. And it was a reflection for me that became so surreal, because all of a sudden I felt like, not like Superman, but I felt like I could be Clark Kent and be okay. You know what I'm saying? I could be totally okay. And there are moments when I can be Superman, that I can appear and go above and beyond. But it's not something that I must do, that I have to do, that's the only way for me to show up, for people not to find disappointment. Or for me to go back to that mindset of, you know what, man, if I don't go beyond, if I don't do this, then they, you know, they might think I'm not showing up for them. No, I stopped doing that. So that was a great lesson for me, man. And ever since then, it's just been, you know, growing and developing and understanding that there is a side of me that desires to of course be a father one day. But in the meantime, how do I show up for the people that I need to show up for the young man who's trying to, you know, bring up their business, or just trying to be an entrepreneur, for, the seasons guy. I'm not going to say old, but the seasoned guys who think, hey, I'm done, but helping them realize, no, you're not done yet. There's an opportunity for you to pass the baton. And if you haven't found that person yet, you need to get involved and help causes that will help pass the baton of knowledge that you have, of wisdom, of mistakes, of failures, of successes. We need all of these guys to get together and help us with this cause, because this is why we're here. It's to be able to spread that legacy, to pass the baton, if you will, of what we've learned over the years and what we've established, man. So I'm excited to be in this space, bro. And I'm thankful to have learned these things early on, because now I'm able to continue in that endeavor of, what, I may not have had a relationship with my father, but I still got lessons passed on regardless, and the journey doesn't stop. There is a part where I'm trying to reconnect again. There's a part of me that says, you know what, even though they may not want to connect, but doesn't mean you can't reach out. It doesn't mean that you cannot let them know that you're there, you're thinking about them, you're praying for them, you still want to connect if they will allow you to. So that's my journey right now, fellas. That's what I got. That's what I got.
I love that, Rudy. That's great stuff, because oftentimes in the situation that we learn, whether it be positive or negative, there's always an other side, right? Yeah. So I love that you're able to get connected, and the analogy of being a Superman with holes in your cape is so fitting, because you're out there trying to be everything to everybody else, but your cape has holes, so you're not there present for your own life. And I love that you found that the connection was you were trying to recreate the experience with your dad. You're trying to make sure that other people don't feel the way you feel. So you're always in service to other people, even in the emotional state, which is fantastic, right? But I think also from that experience, it has also helped you to develop a superpower, because one of the reasons why you're the connection catalyst is because of your ability to be able to build connections and relationships with people so well. So in all respects, everything that happens to us serves us in some way. And that's one of the things I wanted to really say, in that everything that we've gone through, every trauma we've gone through, every situation, it's still going to serve you. Some of it is going to serve you where, you may not show up right now. But again, once you discover it, once you uncover it, then you can look back and see, wow, this is how I was able to use this to fuel me to get into business, or fuel me. That was the driver for me to take this particular action. It still served me. So that's an important thing I wanted to share, because I don't want us to look at these situations and go like, wow, it's a really bad thing to happen. No, it still served us in a very powerful way. And I'm just happy to be in the space now where I can finally say that, I have been intentional to build my own self-worth and my own self-esteem. And now because of that, it will allow me to show up more in the spaces so that I can make more impact. And then my life will start to be reflective. But more than that, my emotional space, whether the environment changes, external environment changes, now is one of peace, one of just hopefulness, one of fulfillment, and that's just absolutely amazing. Bobby,
absolutely. Shout out to Christopher Henry. I just want to read. I have limited space on the screen here, but Christopher Henry says, as men with fathers that are still living, we can learn a lot about our current self by hearing their past stories, which is very exciting. That's very exciting. You can listen, like I said, with my father, I was able to hear some of those stories. But one thing my wife always says to me, and it's very key, basically eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Yeah.
Eat the meat, spit out the bones. Take the parts that are applicable to you, the things that you feel like you can utilize, and take that momentum and go forward and solve whatever you need to solve, accomplish what you need to accomplish. But the parts that don't, pertain, don't say, hey, partnerships are bad. And you like, damn all the partners, like that's not going to serve you.
No, absolutely. And so the great stuff, Emerson, and so we have some questions, fellas. So Emerson asked the question, what are the key questions do you feel we need to ask our father to feel like we're providing your children with the ancestral values we need to be better men? That's a deep question. Wow. Yep. Yeah, I get that. So what are the key questions do you feel we need to ask from our father to feel like we're providing your children with the ancestral values we need to be better men? So anybody want to take that on? And that's yeah.
Yeah, I want to take that on.
Go ahead.
I think oftentimes I was listening to, I don't remember, I was having a conversation with somebody and they were telling, yeah, nobody really talked to my family, things happen, but nobody really said anything. We need to ask our fathers about their mistakes. We need to tell them that it's okay. It's okay to share about the things that that were mistakes that you didn't get to do, or you wanted to do and you didn't get to, or you did that you shouldn't have. It's okay to ask those things, and it's okay as a father to answer those things, because here's the thing. When you're passing on that legacy, you're passing on that baton to the next kid, you want him to excel. You want her to excel. You want them to do better than you did. And the only way to do that is to help them navigate through the mistakes perhaps that you made. Now, it doesn't mean that we're trying to get them away from every single thing. Oh, don't touch this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. No, that's not what I'm talking about, because they need some of these experiences they need. They need to understand that if you touch the fire, you're going to get burned. They need to understand that if you step into the street when moving cars, you're going to get hit. Like, there's certain things they need to understand. But what I'm saying is that in talking to your fathers and sitting down and having, again, heart level conversation, it's okay to ask them, Dad, where did you fail in life? What lesson do you feel that you needed to learn in this situation or that situation, as opposed to hearing all the great things and the wonderful things? Sometimes it's good to hear about the things that were not so great and not so wonderful, because I think it's just as important as a child and as a man even to understand those things and understand, how do I then prevent those things? I remember hearing a pastor talk about, his pornography situation. And it wasn't until he went to his father and asked him about those things that his father revealed, yeah, there were some things that went down when I was younger too. And it's like, whoa, okay, Dad, okay, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
Again, not to be afraid to ask these questions, man, I think is crucial.
Yeah. Hey. Wait 1 second before you go, Bobby. So Christopher Henry says, and this is kind of a line with what Rudy just shared. He says, as men with fathers that's still living, we can learn a lot about our current self by hearing about their past stories. And that's so true. Bobby, you want to take that on? He says, as men with fathers that are still living, we can learn a lot about our current self by hearing their past stories. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, shout out to Christopher Henry, man. Very active tonight, man. And we really appreciate your participation and really talking, having a conversation with us. So yeah, that goes back to the story that I gave earlier about my father, right? I got a chance to learn more about me by having a conversation with my father. Before, I wasn't having those conversations. And so I was missing out on all the benefits of the greatness that's already within me. It's already in my DNA. I mean, I knew it was there because I was able to do certain things, but I didn't know the essence, the power from where it comes from. I didn't know it was like that. That's what Jenkins do. Like we resilient. Like we don't, hey, you ain't knocking us over and we ain't staying down. That's just not, when it's over, then it's over. Right. So now I have that because I was able to go back and have those stories. And again, what prevented me from having those stories is my perception or my view. Another thing I want to toss in there, and this is a key, I think, for a lot of men as well. Sometimes, especially men, we grew up in an age with a lot of single mothers, right? And we got to remember too, see, some of the things my mother shared with me, she was giving me her perspective, her feeling as a young woman, newly married, very young. And so I took that information and ran with it. Oh, my father, he don't want to come. He don't want to show up. He don't want to do this. He don't care about me. So whatever, I'm just going to go do my thing. I don't need him. I don't want to talk to him. But that wasn't the right perspective. I didn't realize that there's a filter that my mom is talking through. And that's not even the same filter today. It's just I didn't like what happened back then. So that filter, you got to take that into account, because sometimes we're viewing because we love our mothers, we're so connected to them, and we're taking their word as gospel, and it's not necessarily gospel, it's their perspective. So
right. Love that. And I know we had 8 o'clock, but the guys are sharing, and I want us to honor them, and I want to respect y'all time. But is it okay if we continue a little bit, because there's some good shares tonight and good questions? Are you guys go for it? Okay. So Christopher is sharing heart level, and Christopher, thank you so much for sharing heart level. Heart level means that it's being real, right? Christopher says, I've resented my father as a young man in the 20s because I felt I didn't get the lessons I needed at that time. my mistake was not having a conversation with him about it then. Today, I soak up so much from him by understanding where he came up short as a father and learning the significance of his accomplishments.
Wow.
That's really, really powerful and great share, Christopher. And I can relate to that because here's the thing. I had a relationship with my father, but it was very limited. My father was a go-getter. He was always doing business, and we never had an emotional connection. So I never really felt emotionally connected to my father. He was a disciplinarian, get the work done, do your work. It was like that type of relationship, very, very transactional, not emotional. So my father was there, but I didn't get to know the man called Mitchell Hill. I never got to know him. And so in the latter years, my dad has moved up here to the United States, and I'm so blessed to have him, here where we can spend some time. And man, I've learned so much about my father. Listen, Chris, everybody was watching. I didn't even know my grandfather was Scottish. I didn't know my dad's dad.
What the hell?
I know. And listen, I just lost a bunch of things, right? I just launched a bunch of street cred right now, right? But it's all good. I know we all mixed up, right? We all mixed up.
Yeah.
So
I got what is it? My great grandmother was Polish, so I got a part Jewish. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, man. So I just found out that my dad's dad was Scottish, and he talked about his experience of not even having his father at all in his life. In fact, his father only interacted with him because he told my grandmother that, listen, if he has to become a Jehovah's Witness to even get paid for school. And I learned so much about my dad and what he was missing and the things that he came through. And it just, as Chris said, you get to profound respect of the human being and the man. And then you see that, listen, as much as I always saw him as a superhero and I needed his validation so much, man, our relationship is so much stronger because we had that heart level conversation. And that's what this community is all about. We want to have heart level conversations that lead to transformation, because the transformation in my relationship with my father is so great. Just like what Chris is talking about here, his transformation with his dad is so great now. So Emerson said, let me share this. So Emerson said, share this. So for example, I brought my son to my dad's home a while ago, and he pressed my son with the question, what is my full name? My 6-year-old didn't have a clue. Question for myself was, did I screw up? Such a simple question, but it made me feel horrible.
Wow.
Who wants to take that on? That's deep right there, man. That's deep right there. Anybody have any thoughts?
I mean, it's at the end of the day, man, you still have an opportunity to make things right. You have an opportunity to spend the time. There's still, father's still alive, the son's still there. Just make it right. Recognize, recognizing that you need the more, that more time, and the more, not just more time, but more intentional time. There's a difference. Darren said it earlier. I know my father, like he was there, but we didn't have an emotional connection. We didn't have a relationship in that sense. And a lot of times I think in any relationships that we have, if we're not intentional about it, if we're just meeting just to shoot the breeze or be on the phone all the time, guess what? You're not going to know about this person. But if you start asking questions, you start, venturing into what makes this father so great, or what makes them tick, or what they like or what they don't like. I like Bobby when he talked about the way that he was able to get through with his fathers by finding out the things that they had in common and starting to talk about those things. I had a young man at my house the other day. I've seen him so many times, but this time we started talking about watches, and it took off. We've had more conversation that night than we've had since the time we've known each other. Why? Because we found something we had in common. So allow your 6-year-old to find something that perhaps your father likes, and allow them to have that bond, that connection, so that they can continue to have these conversations.
And just to piggyback on what Rudy's saying, and this is in our book, we have a book called the confidence. It's the seven steps to unstoppable confidence. One of the things we talk about is awareness, right? So now this is coming to your awareness, right? And so here's the question I would ask. You said you feel horrible, but you feeling horrible, is that justified? And how do I set the foundation for that question? Is saying this: did your father communicate to you the need or the importance of a full name or the specific name or the family name? Did he hand the baton over to you properly? If the baton was never handed to you properly and you weren't made aware of it or weren't taught that, or it wasn't repeated often, that this is how, our family name, which is the Henry name, goes, then you can't be held liable for that. Then even if your father's pressing you, it's understandable, but you shouldn't feel bad about it. Now, here's the next thing about awareness. If he did hand the baton to you and you didn't transfer that baton over, now you can sit back, and now that you've been made aware of it, you can ask yourself, why didn't I do that? That gives you, like the Greek says, know thyself. You begin to learn more about yourself. If your father did teach you that and that was instilled in you, why didn't you transfer that over? What in you prevented you from doing that? Was it because you were young? Was it because the type of person you were? Or did you not hear him, or did you not understand? So like we talk about in the book, this is, the awareness, something comes to light. It's an opportunity. Yes, you feel bad, but after the feeling passes, this is time for you to dig deep and reflect on that specific thing. If it was handed, why didn't you hand it? If it wasn't handed, then you can understand why something like that would happen.
That's good stuff.
Great cheers, man. Great cheers. I want to honor the fellas for just, coming out and sharing their heart and sharing their thoughts and really letting us know where they stand. But I'm glad because, we get to see that this conversation is transformational. This conversation is really needed. And we may want to have a second part to this conversation to get other guys to chime in and share what's happening for them, because I know how impactful it is. I know sometimes the emotion that we feel in feeling horrible or feeling stuck or maybe a lack of self-worth or how do we deal with our current kids, those things are questions that we all deal with. How to navigate the landscape of being a father when our father necessarily wasn't there for us emotionally and provide us with everything that we thought we needed. So for those of you who still get an opportunity to go back and talk to your father and have those discussions, you get to recreate that relationship. And then that helps to rebuild your self-esteem. That gets to rebuild your self-worth. And that's so important for us men because that affects how we deal with each other. Listen, if I don't see value in myself, and this is one of the biggest aspects that affects our community. If I don't see value in myself, I don't see value in you. If you look like me and I don't see value in myself and I don't have no self-worth, I don't see value in you. So I'm always going to devalue you. I'm going to devalue my time with you. I'm going to devalue you as a person. And so this is critically important that we work on rebuilding. And I said this to Chris in one of my quotes. We were talking about something else. And I said, building that king self-image or queen self-image in your kids is so important. And I recognize that because of what I went through, which is why I'm so intentional about doing that. So this conversation has been really, really powerful. I want you guys, let us know if we should do a part 2 of this conversation. If you're still listening, let us know if we should continue this discussion. We want to take it to the next level. Maybe talking about now what we need to be doing now as we become more aware, as Bobby said, to now affect the future generation as fathers. Because all of us, I know, Rudy is not has a son or daughter physically, but he does have people that he's an uncle. He's to so many other people that he's been a mentor. So, but all of us are fathers in many respects, right? So, what do we do to make that impact, right? What do we do to make that impact? So, I think it's critical. So, we want to know. Hey, listen, if you guys see this as a valuable conversation, and should we have a part 2 to this conversation? And I just want to again thank Emerson McLean. I want to thank Christopher Henry for being here. I see Eric Heilig was here as well. He was watching. Denard, of course, was here and just sharing some really good stuff. So, I want to thank you guys for being here. And I do want to mention again, as a top of we did talk about Lawrence Martin. Lawrence Martin was here last week and he shared, great nuggets about building wealth, about personal credit. And we had a great discussion last week. So if you guys missed that, be sure to watch the presentation from last week. And again, we shared his book. And again, I don't want to mess it up. So let me scroll through here and make sure I have it right.
What the FICO?
Is it who gives a FICO? So it's who gives a FICO is Lawrence's book. Yes, who gives? Yeah, I would say
a FICO. Okay.
Yeah, I would say what the FICO too, but it's who gives a FICO, right? It's the whole
gives a FICO.
It's the whole play on who gives a. I ain't gonna say the word, but yeah. So pretty cool stuff. So, all right, well, fellas, I think we closed it out. This was a great discussion, and I'm going to share this, and I leave the floor for both of you guys to close it out. But I want to share this. This is a quote from Marcus Garvey. It's a quote from Marcus Garvey, and I think it applies to our discussion today. Marcus Garvey said this. He said, "A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." That's Marcus Garvey. A people without the knowledge of their past, their origin, their history is like a tree without roots. And today's discussion is so true. It's to reveal that, without sometimes those connections, without those understanding of the traumas and the decisions and the beliefs that we make as a result of our history with our father, it can certainly have an impact and disconnect us from our source, disconnect us from our power, and ultimately disconnect us from being able to have the results, fulfilling results in our life. So again, I want to honor everyone for being here tonight and being in this discussion. Guys, any one of you want to kind of share last words before we end?
I'll share this. One thing I want to say is, we are all fathers, right? I am a father, I am a brother, I am a son. And sometimes we are that to each other. Young or old, age doesn't matter. It's about holding that space, that emotional space for other people. I can't tell you how many times that I feel like I've been fathered by Darian, or I've been fathered by Rudy, or even I've been fathered by Lamont, stepping in and filling the gap in that space sometimes where my physical father wasn't there. And I'm sure that there are times when I've done that for other brothers. They say you don't know your impact until you get feedback. So I appreciate my brother Darian. I want to appreciate you publicly and say thanks for giving that feedback on that mind shift, because I know at the time when I spoke it, that was the intention. And I knew it should work. But I won't know unless you tell me. And so this brother here is also, he said, legacy is so important because as children, we are the products of what our fathers have done in their life. I appreciate the entrepreneurial space. I've made some, he shifted it for me there. I've made some close connection with men that have put me on so much game. Keep dropping the life gem, guys. Thank you. That's huge for us. That's huge for us because we want to know, is it working? Is what we're doing working? If it's not working, don't do it. Find something else to do. So we appreciate you, brother, for taking the time to give that feedback. Also, as we always say, we want to share what we have with the world. There's little things that when we begin to put things together, check out the 7 Steps to Unstoppable Confidence. I believe that book is it's a great book. It was written by all 3 of us. It's a small book, something to keep in the car, to just keep your mind fixed and focused on your consciousness, on where you're headed and the things you need to do to stay on the right path. So sometimes you don't have a physical person present, but you might have something as small as a little book like we've created that you can keep in your bag, and take that with you everywhere you go.
Awesome.
Rudy?
Yep. I got one thing. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir. All right. So listen, we thank you guys again for being here, for playing full out and sharing your heart with us. This is a safe space for entrepreneur-minded men to be able to share, have real heart-level conversations, to work on self-mastery, to get the tools for business and life, and to have real accountability in a community of other supported men to push us through to our greatness, our legacy. And I want to thank you and honor you for being here tonight, spending your time, your most valuable asset with us. Wayne just came on and said, hi. Hey, Wayne, what's going on? He says, my dad didn't leave much. Let me pull this up. My dad didn't leave much as far as inheritance, but he left a legacy. Leadership, love, responsibility, care, and compassion. And that's
wow.
That's a beautiful way to end because that's the legacy that ultimately here in Confidence Factory we want to leave. One of leadership, one of love, brotherly love. Thank you so much, Wayne, for really summing this up. Brotherly love. Being responsible, as men to be responsible for our own lives and to be responsible for the legacy that we're meant to leave and responsible for the gifts that we have, to truly care about one another, right? To come from a space of abundance, not scarcity, to see ourselves as valuable and worthy so we can see each other as valuable and worthy. And last but not least is to have compassion, right? To have compassion for our fathers and knowing that they did the best they could do what they're working with. And to have compassion ultimately for ourselves. All right. So with that,
we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us at CF Talks, where we have heart level conversations that lead to transformation. We appreciate you guys for joining us. We'll be back here next Tuesday. Don't forget, type in the chat if you want a part 2 to this. Type it in the chat. Let us know. Even if it's on the replay, let us know, and we'll bring it back. Guys, that's all for tonight. As we always say here at Confidence Factor, in everything that you do, make sure that you do it heart level.
Heart level.
See you guys next time.
Take care, everyone.